Yeah, let me share the screen with you. How you work, Miss Kristen?
Oh, good. Good,
Yeah.
good. Lots of projects under the way.
You busy?
Oh, yeah. A lot of projects.
Mm. What project you have?
Well, of course, I have all the stuff that goes on in my pet sitting business. I do a lot of writing and blogging and social media, and I just, for this Christian group that helps, um, men that are recently paroled. I'm helping write some like brochures for these new halfway houses.
Mm.
Um, and then I am doing actually for another like sobriety group. I'm doing some like graphic social media stuff for them. And then I am going to be like um, helping coach other horse professionals. This is kind of like online horse professionals about how to get their social media content monetized.
Okay, good, thank you. You keep me busy. All right. So, would you mind to explain for them, for her, what we going to talk about here?
Okay, so have we're kind of going over the history of Buddhism, and we are kind of at the point in Buddhism where we're discussing the different Zen lineages, which of course is a later adaptation or form of Buddhism. So we're kind of going over the different lineages and the different styles of Zen practice.
Mm.
We take turns reading, and then we kind of just discuss whatever it is that we summarize whatever we just read and contribute.
Mm. Yeah, please. Yeah, Miss Kristen, can you read, please?
Can you make it a little bigger, please?
Uh, you can look at the computer.
The computer's even smaller.
Mm. That's better.
No, not really.
Good.
Okay. In Japan, in Japan, Chinese ink painting tradition was popularized from the 14th century by artists also working in the Zen tradition. The 14th, the, the 14th century professional painter turned monk Cao created powerful images of monks to illustrate Zen themes. His spontaneously lifelike drawings of the Tang Dynasty poets Han Shan and Shida were often copied by later artists. The early 15th century monk painter Jutsu catching a catfish with a gourd in which the fish looks larger than the gourd is a parable on the irrationality of seeking enlightenment. His incisive line style was expanded by Shunman and Sheshu, two monk painters based in the Shokuki Zen monastery in Kyoto. In their works, the level of abstraction increases until natural shapes appear boldly realistic, yet impossibly arresting in their depiction. Sheshu's winter landscape skillfully mixes thick strokes and dramatic contrasts to express an aesthetic of composition that is purely Japanese. That's still too small for you. You can't see it either. Yeah, it's still really small. So it's just discussing the different um, how this artist who became a monk was very became famous, and of course it's uh, I guess Zen is the one that kind of brings to light the paradox or I don't know, oxymoron, I'm not sure what you want to call it, of seeking enlightenment. Um, and it sort of just talks about where they were from.
Hmm. Yeah, the last time we talked about the difference between Zen drawing, a painting, uh, with the mundane or a secular painting, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mr. Choi, you remember what we talked about that differences?
Oh yeah, when we see like examples and parables and the hawks and different symbolic imagery in Chinese art last time, Chinese and Japanese.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, most of the time the painting or drawing is so simple, right? It's symbolic way to
Circle.
remember how to contemplate, right? Not to invoke or trigger the anger, trigger emotion, right? Most of the time, from mundane or secular artists, the painting, this has some type of triggering our emotion, whether it's beautiful, ugly, rich, or poor, and so forth, right?
Yep.
Yeah,
I,
yeah.
I
Yes.
really like this idea of the irrationality of that I think Kristen was just sharing, the irrationality of seeking enlightenment. I heard a Zen master say something like it, the instant the instant you're seeking it, it's no longer Zen practice. Like the idea that you practice to get something
Mm-hmm.
is sort of the irrationality that I think we talk about here.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
And also, yeah, and also that everything always happens now.
Hmm.
So the second you start saying, I'm going to become enlightened, you are removing yourself from what is ultimately the truth of now.
you're conceptualizing rather than experiencing the experience, right?
Yeah.
That's it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Mr. Choi, can you read, please?
Yeah. Uh, in the Tokugawa period, Zen painting became more personalized. The Rinzai Zen master, or Roshi, Hakuin, often gave paintings to lay visitors who came seeking religious advice. Although he had no artistic training, Hakuin's unique creations are remarkably compelling and at times humorous. In them, we are given the rare opportunity to see how an enlightened mind expresses itself. His blind men crossing a bridge is not only visually stunning, a closer look at what appear at first to be ants crawling across bamboo reveals them to be blind men.
Yeah. This one here. Yeah. Blind man, right? Go ahead, please.
Blind man, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Can you finish? Yeah.
Continue.
Yeah, please.
Blind men, but a didactic reminder of the critical importance of keeping one's attention focused. The quickly executed works of monks such as Torre, Jun, and Sengat move toward greater and greater abstraction. At times, these pieces are only shapes, as in the evocative circles drawn by Torre and others.
Yeah. So these are his writing, right? Hmm. You know what this words mean? You know what's mean?
No. What? Part?
Yes. How could you know?
Ty just told us.
Oh, you know that? Okay. Yeah, yeah. This is the hut in Chinese.
Yeah, that said it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Let's see. Let's move back here. This is one. Okay. Yeah. So one more time. So they're writing a red painting is symbol. They can write the word. Remember we talked about the word the circle, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, circle doesn't mean that the circle of birth and death, but the completeness, the wholeness, the wholeness. of mind, of the pure mind. And this they wrote about the mind, the heart, and of course, writing this type of characters Chinese, it requires some sort of skill, right? Artist is skill. You have to pay attention on every stroke, right? Otherwise, it's not easy. You have to balance out the stroke too. Mm. What's your name, please? I forgot.
Mary?
Yeah, would you mind to read the next one? Or too
Sure.
small? Can you see or too small?
I can see it here. Where are we?
Yeah, please. The practice.
Okay. The practice of drinking tea is extremely old in China, but it was in Kyoto in Japan, where, as a byproduct of the conversations between Zen monks and the nobility in the 15th century, the preparation, serving, and drinking of powdered tea was formalized in a way that combined aesthetics with meditative calm. Special rooms, such as the one constructed at Ginkakuji by Shogun Ashikaga Yoshimasa, 1438 through 91, were built by the nobility for the purpose of enjoying tea. It was the monk Shuko who, having learned the value of combining meditation with artistic pursuits from his teacher, the poet Ikkyu, formulated the four principles that still govern the way tea is used today: harmony, reverence, purity, and tranquility.
Mm.
Okay, so I was unaware that tea was used in this way as a meditative kind of a practice of having the tea in the way of harmony and reverence, purity, and tranquility. And artistic pursuits. The value of combining meditation with artistic pursuits. I think that's beautiful.
Yeah. You like tea?
Yes, I do.
Hmm. Miss Troy, you like you drink tea frequently?
Gee,
Hmm.
sorry.
Yeah. Okay. Let me share with you. I think the video clips about how they make the tea here. Let me see here. Hmm. It's very elaborated. Yeah. Let me share with you this one here. Hmm. Here how they prepare the tea. You get the tea water from the grain.
Those women get trained. It takes years to train those women in those tea ceremonies. In Japan.
There's tea powder. Matcha powder.
You don't like it? I love it.
do you think, Troy, about this kind of ceremony? It's very elaborated. It's take a lot of times. What do you think?
It's beautiful and it's fascinating. I never quite. I feel like I never quite understand the importance sometimes of ritual in Zen practice. Like I really appreciate it. I respect it, and sometimes I hear people say, everything is meditation when you're walking, when you're working, when you're eating.
Mm-hmm.
But then I see very formalized like ritual practice, and I'm not very I don't understand very well the importance of that much ritual. I always wish I understood that more,
Mm. Yeah.
rather than just mindfully, going about our experience. That's a very regimented, very like uh, strict, takes a lot of training and attention. It's interesting to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Miss Kristen, um, what do you think?
I've just seen, and I don't know that how it necessarily fits with the Zen, but I know like in the some of those Chinese or Japanese geisha women. I mean, aside from the some of the implications of being a geisha, yeah, but that they're actually artisans and they spend many years training to learn how to do these very careful rituals and like only using using a hand for certain things and like the pace that you move, like from my understanding, it's a lot more elaborate even than what meets your eye.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So anyway, so the idea is that not only when we making the tea, but also when we sweeping the floor, washing dishes, right? Um, do everything in our activities. If we're mindful, that's what they call Zen. So yes, for the Japanese people, especially Japanese monk lay people, they have this type of tea ceremony so elaborated, but just a way to be mindful. Mm. So what do you think, Mr. Mary? Right?
Mm-hmm.
So what do you think? If they do this kind of ceremony, is waste of time or what? What do you think?
No, I think anything that you do with care and love, you want to do it in a certain way. You know, like I was a hairdresser for many years, and in my art, I was I wanted to do it a certain way. I wanted to do my best every time, or I wouldn't be happy. My client wouldn't be happy.
Mm.
So I appreciate that diligence. And if and the ritual, I love ritual. I grew up in the Catholic faith. I consider myself a recovering Catholic, actually. But anyways, there was a lot of ritual in the old Catholic masses. They spoke in Latin, and there was a lot of incense and prayers, and I liked that. It gave me a sense of belonging, even though I eventually fell away from Christian
Mm-hmm.
faith.
Mm. So when you do the service, you said hairdress for the client, right? For the
Yes.
customer, right?
Uh-huh.
If you really focus on that job, they love your product, right? After you done with the care with your care of their hair, they get more
Yes.
appreciative, right?
Oh, yes. Very happy.
Mm. Yeah.
Yes. And as a hairdresser, you become kind of a confidant. They
Mm-hmm.
will tell you things because they trust you, and it's a very intimate like relationship. Yeah. Even if you don't know the person, you're still having a very intimate moment. Yes, touching people's hair almost. Yes.
Especially when they have the wedding, right? Or
Yes.
when they have some
Yes.
special function, right? Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yes, they come in early in the morning, the bride and her the entourage, the mothers, and they all want to get their hair done, and they're having donuts and getting ready for the day. It's very special.
Yeah, yeah. Of course, they pay for you more.
Yes.
Yeah, because you spend more time with them, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I do.
Mm.
Do.
Yeah. Uh, yeah, but Miss Joy, sorry, what your job was you doing?
I I mostly teach students who are training to become counselors, and I also work in mental health at a college
So
up
in
here.
that job, it's so important for you to be mindful of what you talk to them, right?
Yeah, just awareness of the space and presence between people in the room. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So anyway, is that the whole idea? Yeah. When we
Yeah,
yeah. Mm.
and I think that's why I'm sorry I have such beginner questions sometimes with these things. Like when we talk about the ritual and like I when I see it, I'm just sort of looking at it aesthetically, like this is beautiful. But then my sort of beginner question is, what's the difference between very ritualized, like formal meditation versus mindful, spontaneous behavior, spontaneous actions, right?
Yeah.
Where there's no rule, there's no arbitrary like way to do it. Like I get caught up in that wondering what is the difference? Why formal and ritual and lots of practice as opposed to spontaneous and present?
Wow. Please be good question. Yeah, Miss Kristen. Yeah.
I mean, I can share my own experience because I do a lot of um, Buddhist ritual, and then of course just kind of day to day mindfulness. So I've been trained kind of in a number of and I find with like doing a lot of the ritual, and especially when you start kind of like repeating it, rinse and repeat. You prepare the body, you prepare the form, and every time you do it, it's like you just kind of trust. You have trust in the process. So the more you practice the process, the more you see it. Like I often like when I tell people I've done the 500 vows or whatever, they're like, "That's crazy." And it's like I can't really explain to you why, like what sort of mental expansion is in there, unless you like kind of have direct contact with it. But there is definitely a big mental expansion kind of within this container of having to sustain doing something for so long or so repetitively that those things are just kind of like the mental object that you kind of give your mind to settle on, and within that container there's a and like there's just not really a way to explain that without the direct contact of it. But I always kind of feel like there's some sort of like personal breaking point in it, and then this expansion of whether it's understanding the Dharma or just it's just having a different kind of contact with reality.
Mm. So here's two things. Yeah, we need to recognize when we talk about ritual, right? Like Miss Kristen mentioned. So somehow we can follow the rules. We can follow the rhythm, right? We can follow the ritual aspect of that ceremony. But if we so rigid, we get stuck with that. So and eventually we may be bored because we can follow the form without any kind of flexibility, right? Let's say the architect, right? They designed the house, whether big house, small house, or commercial building or whichever. So they have some kind of flexibility in designing or drawing their house or building, uh, so so that people can enjoy, right? Mm. So go back to your question, Mr. Choi. So one thing is that we need to remember, if we get stuck with that kind of ritual, right? We tend to be tied up with that ritual. And but when in the Zen tradition, the important thing is, yes, we follow the ritual, follow that kind of format, but at the same time we have to live in the spontaneously, understand, so that we can enjoy that moment instead of, hey, I have to do this, I have to do that. If I do this, I will be right. If I don't, I be wrong. Between wrong and right, we can get stuck there. So having the ritual ceremony doesn't mean that we stuck with that framework, and we lost our moment of mindfulness. Sometimes, let's say, while we're driving, right? Somehow we so we so stuck with the rules. Oh, when we want to turn left, we make a signal turn left. When we turn right, we have to miss a certain line. But sometimes uh, on the road, it's a lot of flexibility we need to drive. Right? It's just not one way, right? So in life too, in life. So uh, like for example, let me Mary, like you have certain type of recipe, right? To for the food, but if you keep follow that kind of recipe rigidly, so you may get stuck with that. But if you somehow be flexible with your recipe, you can add on some seasoning, whichever it may be more delicious, right? Or even with your hairdresser job, right? So others customer may like this way, other may like that way, and so forth. You have to be flexible. Uh, when they walk into your store, right? You can point, hey, is this the style you want me to do for you? Is that right? You have many style, right?
Uh-huh.
So how is that? How you can be flexible so that at the end of the day, after you done, they be happy. Yeah.
Right.
How is that? How you can be flexible? Even you show them the style they want to, right? They want you to do.
Yes. Yeah, when they show you what they want, well, you assess it and see if that will work for their hair, because everybody's hair is different, and then you work with them to find a common ground. So they'll be, the main thing is you want them to be pleased with their hair. So you want to make them happy. Do what they want within reason of your abilities. So.
But some style, right? Sometimes may look similar to what they're looking for, but you have to be flexible.
A little different,
A
yeah.
bit different, right?
Yes.
What happened if you're so rigid that, hey, this is a style I can do for you, otherwise I cannot? What happened then? They walk away, right? They,
You can usually find a common ground to make them happy.
that's the point. So
Well, as a retired dog groomer, back when I used to groom dogs, and people would be like, "I want this style on my dog," and it's like, you did not take care of your dog enough for me to do that. The only option is for me to shave your dog humanely. And of course, people lose their minds, and they villainize you. And it's like, I didn't put your dog in the crummy condition that it needed to be shaved. But so, without some flexibility, when you tell your customer, well, you don't, this is your only choice, they get really mad, and you turn into a bad person super fast. Even though that's, of course, not your intention. Right. Yeah.
so Mr. Cho, you recognize the difference now, right?
I had no idea how many riches would come from my question. That's a beautiful response. Well, yeah, because it helps me to think like there's not something magical about the forms and the rules themselves, right? Like we're not being zapped with that just being the right, like the way. It's simply sort of a means. It's kind of a vehicle and letting go of the thinking and just being in the experience. Maybe that's why, because I never really understood chanting either. I would say, like, why so much importance on chanting? And then somebody told me that they could be chanting in Korean and not speak Korean, for example, but it didn't matter that they didn't understand the words. It was the it was the here and the now, and that's all that was the whole point.
Yeah, the
That's what I do. I've learned to chant in Vietnamese, and I don't speak Vietnamese, but for me, like what I get out of it is the level of concentration it takes to learn, like throughout the process. I've been doing this now for a few years, of like focusing closely enough on the sound, trying to match it up with the words and the rhythms and stuff like that. That level of concentration brings me a lot of riches, even though I mean, of course, I do actually understand a lot of the sutras, but in the moment, the reward is this like very intense level of concentration.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Uh, so do you watch the Charles Chaplin and the Eden Machine? Remember that? Let's watch this one. I love this. So how I love this. So how it's so rigid that he gets stuck with that. It's not the mindful way. Let me show you here. I got here. I think you watched it before, right? This one you watched it before. Yeah, he gets stuck with his his pattern. He gets used to his pattern.
Charlie Chaplin brought mindfulness to the West.
Yeah, yeah, he gets stuck with that too.
Oh,
Yeah,
That's our life, right? Look at that. That's what we.
Hog in the wheel.
It's the spontaneous part.
yeah. That's what they call is so rigid, right? He gets stuck with his mentality of this type of tools, right? And he's not mindful, right?
Ants going around the tree.
That's the demonstrate how the machine. I mean that he instead of control machine now somehow in his mind he the machine or the technique or the pattern control himself. He's not mindful, right? Mm. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I love this one when it was little. So again, so Miss Choi, you recognize, right? One is ritual, one that follow the pattern, another one is follow the spontaneous way of living, Zen, right? If we so rigid, we get stuck with that. Like him, like John Chaplin, he gets stuck with that. He could not get out of his mind. Yes. So basically, most of the time, we follow the pattern. For example, in the morning we wake up early in the morning, we drink tea, drink coffee, have a donut, and so forth. We get used to that kind of pattern. And what happened if someone say, "Hey, go," someone asks us to go out early, but we say, "Oh, I forgot to drink tea. I cannot go before I finish my tea, before I finish my coffee." Is that right? You understand that? That's what we get we stuck with the ritual. That's what we get stuck with the pattern. That's different from the Zen. The Zen is yes, we follow the pattern. Doesn't mean that we will be enclosed or controlled by that pattern. Makes sense now? Right? We be flexible, depend upon the situation. Um, so we can recognize that with that type of flexibility, our life is more at ease. Our life is more enjoyable. Let's say if we go somewhere else, and we stay overnight at our friend's house, whoever house, and somehow because of the strange house, somehow we could not get the pillow that we love to have, or the blanket that we have. Make sense? That's
Yes.
why we get stuck with the pattern, with that kind of have to pattern. Make sense now, right?
Mm.
So that in Zen tradition is we try to break it. Yeah, that kind of pattern.
One of the things I have really noticed, like when I've done really long, full days of meditation, like in retreat or whatever, it's interesting the thoughts that arise, like seem to come at certain times throughout the day, and it turns out you have pretty much the same kind of thoughts and the same types of distractions at about the same times during the day that you really get to see, like, oh wow, my brain just keeps repeating, like giving me the same sort of thoughts over and over. Sometimes it's dependent, like on the clock. Sometimes, but it's your brain is just, yeah, it's good to learn to interrupt those patterns, but it's amazing how much of the same stuff you're actually just kind of repeating in your own thoughts.
Is your brain ever saying this is exhausting or this is boring or I could be doing so much today, getting things done instead of what I'm doing? Like, are those things coming in and going out, or
Well, for me, it's like it's not so much the restlessness, but it'll be like, in the mornings it'll be like whatever it was that I listened to will get stuck in my head, and then maybe like around lunchtime I like start getting distracted by thoughts of food, and like maybe in the afternoon it's like, wow, I'm just, I'm kind of tired. It would be a lot easier to just not have to sit up as long, or if you have some sort of like trouble, like in your, I don't know, financial trouble or relationship trouble, that really you think about those things really at about the same times per day as well. Like your thoughts are so repetitive. It's really kind of annoying.
So what's the difference between that type of have to pattern with our regular schedule for the day? What do you think, Mr. Troy? What do you think?
the difference between maintaining that kind of rigid schedule versus completely flexible? Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
I, I almost feel like, is it like the some of the ritual prepare you? Like, I know it's about the moment, but does some of the ritual sort of train you to become more acclimated when unexpected things happen?
Mm-hmm.
Like through practice, in other words, you take some of that with you. So you take that into the world, and maybe you're not as frustrated by traffic, or maybe you handle somebody more compassionately, or maybe you. I mean, that should be, if it's to help all beings. Like, are we taking something from the practice and then into our experience outside of the bowing and the chanting, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
For me, when I practiced metta meditation, which is a repeating of certain phrases, may you be happy, may you be peaceful. Um, so you, for extensive hours and times over and over again, you're saying those phrases, and you're training your mind to. So, like, scientifically, the way it works is like you're putting in information into your reticular activating system. So you're kind of training your brain what to scan the environment for and what input, right? Because our brains only pick up, or like cognizantly, we only recognize a very teeny tiny portion of all the sensory information that we put in there. So when you pattern in things like that, like, so for me with the metta, not only was it my default it's sort of becoming like a default thing to look at people and think, may you be happy, may you be peaceful, or like seeing a suffering person, like immediately that's my brain goes into that series of like mental offerings. So yeah, the more that stuff gets patterned and ritualized, particularly like I think with the compassionate exercises we have in Buddhism, it really you're and by way of that the neurological mechanism is just the way you're training your brain to scan the environment and to respond to that external input. And so for me, there was just like not only a massive shift in the way I felt and related to people, the interesting part was I felt like people were kinder and more accepting of me. Now, whether there's like any truth to that or not, I patterned that up. I patterned that enough in my brain that that's what my brain was looking for.
It's kind of like neural pathways and training yourself. Kind of like people who say that they're miserable about everything because everything is terrible. Then they go out in the world and they find it because they've already determined it.
Yeah, that's exactly how that works. I mean, like with positive affirmations, you can do this with money. You can get money. You can bring money into your life by saying, I see money everywhere. I see people just randomly send me money. Tell yourself that enough. You loop that stuff enough in your mind, guess what you're going to get? And I've had random money show up before doing that. So I know what it is. It's not that there's this like really objective reality that any of us are experiencing. It's that our brains are looking for certain things. So you have to be really careful what it is, what you're feeding your brain, especially like as a habit, like things that, well, like with social media, oh my goodness. People put some sort of like weird, disparaging kind of post up, and every time they get a like on it, so not only they're reading it, thinking it, and then they add this other like with the like thing, then you flood your brain with the dopamine. Well, guess what you're going to go when you go out into the world. Let's say it's something awful like all homeless people are horrible, mean people. You're going to run into horrible, mean homeless people. You've just like neurologically set yourself up to see that.
Like you can't plant a mango tree and expect bananas to come off of it, right?
Yeah.
You're cultivating all that.
Yeah, I mean, you're literally teaching. So, and I go on about this all the time. Even people that joke like, "Oh, I'm ugly," or "Oh, I'm fat," or "Oh, nobody ever likes me. I'm so awkward in social situations." Well, guess what your reality is going to show you? Mm-hmm. You're going to get confirmation for whatever that is, and that's not woo-woo, that's not out there, that's like neuroscience can tell you exactly how that mechanism works. So be aware of what you feed yourself. And the Buddha taught this however long ago. What you think, you become.
Mm-hmm.
So guard your mind.
Yeah, that's what we talk about here. If we don't recognize the thought that come and go, things changing moment by moment. The extreme way is the COVID-19, right? Most of us get stuck in the room. Most of us get stuck in the house. We could not go out much. But other countries more extreme too, right? Like China, right? People could not do anything now because of the government try to stop everything. But anyway, many people, especially young ones, they couldn't adapt to that kind of situation. That's why they depressed. When they could not graduate on time, when they could not get internship or job. But if we know how to apply Zen to mindfulness practice, they accept what's going on instead of going to the pattern. Even the pattern is not. I mean, even the situation is not favorable for us. We just set and move on. That's what we live with the Zen movement. Otherwise, if we stuck with that type of format or with that type of ritual, whichever, that's why we have the suffering there, right? No matter, right? Like we just talk about, you groom the dog, or you make the hair grass for other people, or you teach or guide the counselor, so forth. We have to be flexible and accept whichever is happening. That life is just more uh, fruitful, right? And we say, oh, I have to do this, have to do that, I have to follow this certain pattern. Yeah, of course. Uh, when we uh, live in the world, we need to follow a certain pattern, right? Let's say follow the traffic light, right? The traffic rules. Yeah, but somehow, be flexible with that too. But if
Well,
they so
the human mind hates uncertainty. Your brain would rather like know a bad outcome is coming than to be left uncertain. And so the more you can practice staying in the moment and overriding that, it's like a nervous system fear of being uncertain, not knowing what's coming next. The more you practice being in the now, the less fear of anxiety, fear of the future, fear of failure, all these other things that have a lot of health impacts. You know, you have to once you have the awareness, constantly override those like lower brainstem functions and get your prefrontal cortex on board.
And in reality, it's all uncertain, right?
yeah.
Isn't that what the Buddha would say? It's
Yeah.
all uncertain anyway.
Yeah,
That's
it's all
human condition, right?
impermanent and uncertain, and and our brains do not like either one of those. So the more you can practice and understand it and feel at peace with it, the less suffering you're going to experience when those things that are guaranteed, impermanence, and uncertainty come up. Yep. Then you'll be like, oh, I know how to do this. I've trained my nervous system how to handle this.
Yeah, Miss Mary, sometimes people walk into your studio, right? Or right, they call it studio, is that right?
Yes.
And
Salon.
salon. So sometimes some people ask you to make some kind of weird hairdress for them, is that right? How can you handle though?
I love it.
Oh really? Oh really? Okay.
The crazier the better.
Oh really? Okay.
Artwork.
Yeah. So you never deny if they ask you to make some kind of weird hairdress. You never deny them.
No.
Wow. Yeah. With that special request, they pay you more. Yeah.
They did good. They were good to me.
Oh, good. Yeah, but Miss Joy, when you train the counselor, sometimes they may have some kind of weird mentality. So how can you train them?
Yeah, I might have a specific plan in mind, but it may be somebody who comes who doesn't have, for example, the skill set or the experience that I might have thought they had. So I have to adjust to meet that individual where they are. Just like we would with a client, right? I might have my idea, but my idea maybe it's no good now because now we have a new understanding based on circumstance, based on conditions. So it's always adjusting, always flexing, no matter what the plan was. It changes in a moment.
Yeah, it's so important. The adjustment of flexibility is so important, right? Otherwise, if we stuck with that type of formality, right, that type of pattern, we would not enjoy our work, right? We would
Right.
not
Right.
work with other people easily, right? Okay, so let's move on to the next section. Let's see here. So let's go back here. Yeah, go back about the tea, uh, the tea ceremony. So one more time. Yes, they follow that pattern. If they so rigid in that pattern, they get lost with their mindfulness, right? They're so rigid, right? So they have to remember that this type of ritual can help them to be mindful. But if they don't, those type of ritual would tie them down. They would stay stuck with that ritual, right? In any circumstances that we just talk about. Yeah. Yeah, Miss Kristen, please read this one, please.
In the 16th century, tea ceremony aesthetics took a leap forward under the influence of Senno Rikyu, a master of taste. Rikyu eschewed the opulence of palaces and mansions. He redesigned the tea room, transforming it into a small rustic place where the elegance and simplicity of the tea ceremony could be savored. The entrance to this new tea room was so low that visitors had to bow to enter, and samurai were forced to leave their swords outside. Inside was almost a blank space. Only one piece of art was allowed to adorn the room, where an imperfect yet extraordinary aesthetic experience would unfold. Rikyu termed this expression of wabi. Words such as wabi and sabi were borrowed from descriptions of solitary monastic hermits to describe the aesthetic of understatement and natural decay. So, this particular master did not like all the fancy palaces or things, so he made it very simple. You were only allowed to have the one. So apparently he had some rituals put established for these types of tea rooms, and I guess that's where the concept of wabi sabi is the concept of the beauty in imperfection.
Yeah.
You'll see the which I guess is a later adaptation of this word. But wabi sabi is like you'll have this like perfect bowl, but then like part of it will be collapsed in. So it's kind of a break from forcing some sort of perspective onto an object. So it's all like the beauty is in the irregularity or the brokenness of it.
Yeah, see that's the tea room here. How they set up. It's not yeah, so that people can come and enjoy with the space here. Not much decoration. Just the most of the time the empty room, right? With some wooden, some poster that's here. Yeah. Yeah. So Mr. Cho, you know why this type of tea room is so simple? Why is that? Why it's so important to have like a simplicity of the tea room? What do you think? Why is that?
I think just to have for things to be so spare, to be so clear, be so undistracted, to be, also to observe, aesthetics, the things that Kristen was just talking about, the idea of, I think if Ajahn Chah's talking about the cup is already broken, like to not have to have certain surroundings and just to recognize the impermanence of all of it. Just my
yeah.
instinct.
Yeah. So yeah. So Miss Kristen, what do you think? Why is so important to have that kind of simplicity in this?
Well, so you're not really distracted by all sorts of other things. Like I know people go into this beautiful Buddha hall and they go to do walking meditation or whatever, and you can see they're very distracted by all the beautiful things around. So I would imagine those situations make it very easy to calm and steady the mind on your object of focus.
So what do you think about meeting those people, the one that's like to have a simple life, and opposites with the one that may enjoy the complex life? What do you think?
We are all different expressions of the universe. We are just the universe experiencing itself, and those are
Yeah.
different. That's just different forms. Like it's just different expressions of.
But I mean that what's the difference? What their personality, the personality, the difference between the one that like to have a simple life, another one that may like to have a complex life.
Oh yeah, well, there's a lot more. I mean, you can read the chaos on a lot of those people, because they're not only like somebody with a very complex life and a ton of responsibilities. Like, of course, and then they've got their schedule on their mind, their finances on their mind. Did I get my meeting? Did I serve this purpose? Did I do that? Is all my really expensive stuff properly maintained, turned on, dusted, folded? That's just it's a lot more things
Mm-hmm.
to hold. And of course, the more scat. I mean, you can tell when somebody's, or I can read somebody's like internal, like scattered energy. So that's why, of course, the Buddha recommends a very simple life, because all those other things are just going to drag your attention away from the ultimate truth.
It's also insatiable, right? Like you can never get enough. It's all
That's the
striving.
point. That's the point. Yeah.
Once you get it, it's gonna. There's change. There's suffering in getting what you want. Also,
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah.
mean, always. Whether you get what you want, you don't get what you want. There's going to be suffering in either one of those outcomes. Or the Dharma ask is to understand that either way, if you get what you want, it's going to change and go away, turn into something that you don't want. If you get something that you don't want, you've assigned so much meaning to it, and you've created some sort of, rather than having the ability to accept and let go of whatever arises and goes. And if you don't attach to any of that, it doesn't really matter. You get your preference or you don't, because you're anchored in what's really important, and that's not in gain or loss, praise, blame, fame, disrepute. you know.
Yeah. So that's like Miss Mary. So when the two customers come to your salon, right? Shop, right? One is just ask you to trim their hair in a simple way, right? Another one is ask you to make up their hairdress in the fancy way. Which one do you prefer?
It doesn't matter. I appreciate both. It's mostly the people. You get, because so many of them, I've done like 3 generations in the family. So uh, it doesn't really matter. I just allow more time if it's going to take me more time.
But the simple one,
I
right?
don't. I like it simple, and then I like something ornate as well.
Okay.
It.
No, I mean,
I appreciate both.
I mean that's the one that walk into your shop that asks for simple haircut. Much their lifestyle is much simple, right? It would not take much time of your right.
Huh?
But the
Yeah.
one that asks for making up the hairdress in a beautiful way, in the fancy way, in the elaborate way, of course, take a lot of time for you.
They
And you
might
have to be
require a
careful
little.
with that.
The fancy ones require a little more patience.
Yeah, that's the point.
Sometimes, yes.
Okay, anyway, so that's us end today then. So thank you. So yeah, so
Thank you.
thank you. So see you then. You want come if you want to come tomorrow to sit with Kristen, Kristen, you come tomorrow?
Yes, I think Michael's coming
Yes.
tomorrow too.
Yes,
So
he will come. Dr. Michael he will come. Yeah. I'll be back next week then. All right, thank you, Mr. Troy. Thank you.
Thank
See
you.
you.
thank you.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.